What is love bombing?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's... I'll just give you an example of what happened to me, and it was very much just... It's that whole treat you like a princess or whatever that means to you. I'm just using that.
Yeah.
It very intense. You know, met the
Whirlwind.
man of my... Yeah, whirlwind romance.
Yeah.
Showy with gifts, things like that.
Affection.
Whether you want it or not, I'm not somebody who's bothered about anything like that. But obviously, if it's happening in the moment, you're like, oh, this is amazing. This has never happened. Just used to like pick me up and say, I'm taking you here. This is your day. So, you know, you just take me into any shop and be like, pick anything. It's on me. And I'd be like, what? Just things like that. Very intense. Very like a movie almost, you know, like
rom-com.
And then it's very quickly they do that to make you fall in love with them because they present themselves as that person in the beginning who actually that's not the person they are. They kind of put on a facade.
I mean, when you're at a young age and you're trying to understand the kind of person you are, it is sometimes a lot of us have a foundation of what we think love is.
Yeah.
Like from the movies and all that growing up, what you think. At that point, would you say you understood? Obviously, you understand it way better now.
Yeah.
But at that point, you saw all that as this guy truly loves me or wants me.
1,000%, yeah.
Okay.
It's so easy to...
So
It's very common. I think it'd be hard to find a woman that hasn't got a similar story.
Yeah.
In a way, it's very common.
Yeah.
So when was the point where it kind of turned?
It was probably about 8 months in, to be honest with you. And then... But then what happens is they kind of twist it and turn it. So I'd be like, you've changed. What's happening? You're not this, you know, this is not who I met. And then they change it around to, well, it's you. You're not the They do that whole switcheroo. And they're like, you're making me like this. You're the reason.
Was the change coming from a place of the change in terms of character or how they treated you or...
Words and like, it was... In the beginning, it was more like mental and emotional. So there'd be a lot of comparison to his ex, a lot of comparison in bodies and things like that. So then I'd be like, oh shit, I need to like keep up with this that you like.
And
but by then you're hooked, you're in it,
it's
and
not
you're like,
always
oh,
direct
I'm not.
as well. It's like, oh, she looks great, and it's that subtle. Yeah.
And when you're young and impressionable in that sense, it's like, obviously by then I was like madly in love with him. So then I was like, I need to do this to keep him.
Yeah.
And that I didn't, it was almost like the tables had turned to the point where I didn't deserve him.
How much older was he?
Like 4.5 years older than me, I think.
I was trying to understand. You know, when people talk about like the relationships and what happens, one of the things you try and always understand is where did this, I mean, sometimes it's reversed, but male, female, where do these people actually, where they get this training from? That they can actually walk on people's... I mean, I'm sure at every point, at every given point, each and every one of us has probably broken somebody's heart.
Yeah, absolutely,
apart from me. But each and everybody has broken... Yeah, I didn't say I'm perfect. I'm just saying... I'm just saying broken heart, but...
There's probably a group somewhere supporting each other.
A group chat, a WhatsApp.
Farah Anonymous. So you got in, and you said 8 months in, you started to know this thing. So how long... When did you actually get to the point that you were like, this is not me? What raised the awareness? And then it talks about, this was the mental part. And I know you're a big advocate for raising awareness for domestic violence. Did it become physical?
Yeah. So it just would get kind of heated in the sense of I started sticking up for myself with my attitude. That's what I used to call it, and my lip. But that was, you know, he would say things about me. And when I did start to say, well, if that's what you like, then go get that instead sort of thing, it would cause arguments. And then he would react physically. So the first time it was like a slap, but then he blamed me for that because of something that I'd said to him because he'd, you know, called me ugly or whatever he'd called me. And I'd like told him to go fuck himself or whatever. And then I got a slap for that. So that's how it started. But again, it's a really... and looking at it now and even talking about it, I do feel like that was a completely different person. And I just want to give her a hug and tell her everything will be all right. Yeah. But at the same time, I'll never be ashamed of what I went through. People who do what he did are very smart, very clever. And again, I don't know where that comes from, but I was, manipulated in that sense. But I'll also talk about it because it is such a taboo subject. People don't like listening to it.
It's a big issue, though. It's a big issue.
It is a big issue.
I think it's more of an issue if somebody doesn't want to listen to it. More than somebody that doesn't want to talk about it. I can understand.
Yeah, because so many people will say, "Well, why didn't you just leave?" Like, I've lost friends over that would say you should have just left, and I'm like, and I don't speak to them anymore because
it's a very I don't have words for it. It's a very I don't have words. No. It's just cruel in a way.
Yeah, people don't. I would never. I always say, unless you've been in a situation, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, whatever kind of abuse it is, you will never know either how you'll react, or some people do just leave. But I would never wish it on anyone for you to be ever put in a position like that for you to understand how you'd react. But I also can't explain it to you.
Oh yeah, it's difficult to explain. It's sometimes it's like the sympathy, empathy kind of situation. Some people may sympathize, but it's like
yeah.
But then you have possibly people that have possibly gone through it probably have more empathy.
Yeah.
And most guys, okay, not most guys, a lot of guys will probably not have gone through that situation. And it's very difficult for people to actually dwell into an emotion that they have no idea about.
Yeah.
And but it's a good. So you started getting stronger. Your awareness started getting bigger. What was the final? I'm done with this. This is over. And was there any pushback from him in terms of?
Yeah,
to let you go.
I left him a couple of times.
Yeah.
So I should probably go back over that. But I left him maybe 5 times in the 5 years, and that is completely normal.
Yeah.
It takes about 7 times before a woman actually leaves.
Yeah. If she's lucky, 7.
If she's lucky, yeah. So basically, I left, but then, and I'd be very strong. I'm done. Sometimes it'd be like 6 months, but it would be constant emails, phone calls. I would block things like that. And then it would be letters and, just things that would make me think that he'd changed. He'd start being that person who I met in the beginning, and then I'd fall back into it all over again. But the point for me was it got really bad one day, and I ended up at the bottom of the stairs. So I was like, I need to go or I'm going to die.
When you raise awareness for domestic violence. What are one of the things? How do you get people to understand the situation? It is. I don't want to use the word easier, but it is. I think it's more understanding when you speak to people that in that situation have been in.
Yeah.
So, and when you raise the awareness, what do you want from people that haven't been in it? What do you want them to do? How do you want them to support? How do you want them to help people that have actually been in that situation or are in that situation?
To not be ashamed for a start. That's the main thing, because a lot of people see it as a weakness.
Yeah.
And I really don't. I think it takes a lot of strength to leave a situation like that. But
do they see it as weakness, or they're quite worried about being judged? Like, with the in certain situations as a guy, and having sometimes the older you get, apart from people that you're very close to, you don't want to tell them stuff because you're afraid of that judgment.
Yeah.
So if you tell a guy, oh, I did this, or I want to do this, and they're like, you're scared of that, because we usually get worried or affected by the judgment of people who are close to.
Yeah.
It's both of them. It's both of them. It's the judgment and
and in yourself as well. For a long time, I was ashamed of it, because for the first maybe the first year and a half that I did leave, I was like, it's all my fault. I put myself in those. So I had a lot of shame for myself.
Yeah.
That and until I realised, and I was like, hang on a minute, no, that's not. It wasn't me. I didn't ask for any of that. I don't deserve any of that.
Were you still gigging and doing music and writing music at this time?
I'd stopped writing. That's one thing that I'd stopped doing. And I was still gigging, yeah, but not as much because my head wasn't in it.